Hey, what's up guys? It's Shorens here. Today I'm going to be bringing you another Miscreated video. This has actually been requested a lot. It's going to be a tips and tricks video. I'm just going to go over some of the basic things I've learned just by playing the game. I do have over 200 hours in the game at this point, so I'm pretty experienced. I have a lot of tips. They're going to go from basic to a little bit more advanced, but this really is just for beginners. So I hope you guys find it helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments. But anyway, let's just jump right into it. First of all, anytime you're running, it's always a good idea to press Alt and free look. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to allow you to move where you need to go, and at the same time look around you, check for hazards, other players, mutants, whatever. It's going to give you the ability to see them before they see you. Another thing is right-clicking to zoom in. If you right-click, you can zoom in on things. You're going to want to do this with either a melee weapon or a holstered primary weapon or gun. If you were to raise the weapon and unholster it and then right-click, you'd end up aiming down the sights. Another thing with aiming down the sights, if you press right-click and then you press shift, you'll do an additional zoom, which is really good for longer range aiming. So again, that's right-click and then zoom with shift, left shift. Next, we're going to talk about keeping fed and hydrated. Down in the lower right, you see all your levels for hydration and food. You're going to want to keep those up just because when they're higher, obviously you have a lesser chance of starving or dying of thirst. But at the same time, when they're green, I think you heal the fastest. If they start to get yellow, you're going to heal slower. And red, I don't think you heal at all. So always remember to keep well fed and hydrated. Next, clothing rips into rags. Rags can be used for crafting, or rags can be used for also bandaging. So you're going to want to take any clothing, like head bandanas. Those are great for tearing to rags. You're going to right click on it, press tear to rags, and rags do stack to 5. So I'm just going to do that for this. And say you're in a gunfight and you ran out of bandages or something. It's always a good idea to wear something that can be ripped to rags. Beanies and bandanas are great because they don't take up any inventory space. They can just be taken off immediately and converted to rags. Not to mention they don't hold anything, unlike the pants or the hoodie or whatever else you're wearing. So those are always great to rip to rags. So, another thing, wanderer pants and hoodies, cargo pants, jackets, they all hold more than just a t-shirt and jeans, so it's always a good idea to pick those up. Another thing is using the scroll wheel to consume items or use items. So I'm just going to drop this tomato juice. By the way, tomato juice is one of the best foods in this game just because it refills your thirst and hunger levels quite a bit. So anyway, if you were to see tomato juice on the ground or on a shelf in a store or something, you're just going to hover over it, use the scroll wheel, and consume it immediately. If you need it and you don't want to carry inventory space and you don't want to do the extra step of adding it to your inventory and then consuming it with the right click, then it's good to just use the scroll wheel and select that. So another thing is, say you don't have a backpack and you need one because you're out of inventory space, whatever. If you have rope, and you find rags and you find that rope, you can go to crafting, under cloth and then backpacks, you can craft a horseshoe pack. You just press craft item and you'd make one right there and then. Another thing is refilling water bottles. So if you have a water bottle, you happen to find one, maybe it's empty. You see in the bottom left it says this cannot be refilled here. So what you gotta do is go to a water reserve. I'm in Salton right now. There's a little stream right here next to the city. This one's great for water. I always make a stop here. You're just gonna get, like ankle, knee deep in the water. Right click, press consume, and this item has been refilled. If you need to, refill your thirst bar, you can just right click, left click, left click. Make sure to leave it on refilled so you have it for the trip. But that's how you do that. Another thing is if you're really low on food and you're in the middle of nowhere, and maybe there's wolves nearby or another animal, you can kill them and you can actually go into their inventory and consume the meat for food. Another thing, when you're lost, road signs are really helpful. In general, road signs are the #1 way to get around and know where you're going early game. So this is an example of one. Woodhaven's that way, Pinecrest is that way. And you can find maps in-game, but I recommend just going online, maybe on your phone or in another tab, and just alt-tab to the map to see where you're going. And if you want like cardinal directions, the map will give you that as well. If you spawn by the coast, like by the airfield, then the coast is going to be south. Over time you'll get better at directions, and by now, I'd say after about 100 hours in game you'll have the entire map memorized, so don't worry too much about that. You'll get a feel for it, and every time you spawn you'll just know where you are based on landmarks. So that's definitely something that improves with time. Another thing is if you do happen to find a bike, this is kind of a given, but they are much... Oh, look, I triggered a mutant. Speaking of mutants, if you can strafe around them, that was actually a bad example, and avoid getting hit, you can kill them without taking too much damage. I have killed them without taking any damage before. That was a bad example. It kind of caught me off guard, but just try strafing around them. And they also do have inventory items, so make sure to press inventory on them, look in their gear, just grab whatever you can. If you're really desperate for food or water, sometimes it's a good idea to just kill a mutant. So keep that in mind. But bikes, much faster. Just press your use key, and they actually back up really slow, but they go forward really fast. Bikes are a great way to get around. They're also much quieter than cars, so that's something to keep in mind. Next I'm going to get into like more safety tips, more staying alive, somewhat PvP oriented tips, but not really aggressive tips, just tips to stay alive and avoid gunfire or whatever. So first of all, I'm going to start with memorizing slots. Memorizing slots can be the difference between living and dying in a fight. First of all, you're going to want to look at these 4 slots. There's primary, 1 and 4, secondary, 2 and 3. Now it's really important in a fight to remember, and beforehand remember, where each one of these things is placed. Typically I like to do it like this. Primary weapon I use the most is going to be 1, pistols 2, melees 3, and then the secondary weapon, usually my more long-range solution, is 4. You can do it any way you want, but it's just good to memorize these beforehand, because say you're shooting someone with this Glock, right? They come running up to you, you run out of ammo, and you want to melee them, because they're right there in front of you, they're trying to hit you with their melee weapon, and you accidentally press something else. Maybe you press 2 and just holster the Glock thinking the melee weapon was there, then you're dead. So you really want to memorize which slot each thing is in, and just be ready to pull out whatever weapon you need to use at the time you need to use it. Another thing is going to be always loading the guns and magazines. It's just a waste of space to have like floating around ammo, like 223 rounds. You're going to want to drag that right into the Carlington. I'll give you an example. Say this is just a waste of space. Right now you're taking up 2 unnecessary slots with the ammo, the magazine. All you have to do is drag the ammo into the magazine, drag the magazine into the gun. Not only do you save space, but you also have a gun that's loaded and ready to go. So that's important. Always take what has ammo. So if it was the choice between maybe a Glock with 6 rounds and an HK with 2, the HK does more damage, but the Glock has more ammo. So generally I would say take whatever has more ammo. With pistols you could actually drag it into your inventory and have both, but with a primary weapon, say you have a Carlington with 4 shots versus a Renegade with 1, Renegade does more damage, but you're going to want to take the Carlington anyway because it has more ammo. unless of course you had 2 slots open. In that case, just take whatever, but generally it's good to just take what has ammo so you're ready to go, because you may think in the long run, oh, let's get the gun that's better, that, you know, does more damage, shoots further, whatever. You know, you don't know how long you're going to live in this game. And if you decide to do something that jeopardizes your ability to shoot back or defend yourself because you wanted the better weapon and then you run out of ammo, maybe you miss, you know, you're going to end up losing out. And you're going to end up losing everything. So it's not worth losing everything. Another thing is don't run directly on the roads. I've actually been making a pretty bad example. I'm on a really low pop server right now, so I'm not worried about seeing anyone. But generally, like, if you're headed towards Sultan right now, and you know generally where it is, use the roads as a guideline. So, like, let's just jump in these bushes. I'll give you an example. So you're going to want to just run, you know, even like 50 yards to the right or left of the road. It's a good idea because people won't see you as easily. They won't just catch you on the road and shoot you. So always stay in the trees. I'd recommend probably about 200 meters in the woods, running next to the road as opposed to just running straight on the road, because that's how you're going to get spotted, and that's how someone else is going to shoot first. And shooting first is a big factor in this game. If you get shot from some unknown direction, you're not going to be able to return fire quickly. They might even get the second shot on you before you even know what happens. So it's always a good idea to, you know, not make yourself obvious. Use some stealth, use some common sense, and don't get seen. Another thing is zigzagging and jumping. So say there was someone up on this hill, maybe they're shooting me, right? I need to zigzag and jump to either cover or foliage. So if they're shooting me from here, I could jump, zigzag to cover. Oh look, 30 round stand egg. I'll talk about that later, but basically either that or you could jump, zigzag to foliage so you're not seen anymore. But it's always a good idea to jump as much as you can and zigzag. Make it as hard as possible for them to shoot you. Because if you're just running it straight there, you're creating a straight line for them, really. And, I mean, at the most, I would say, well, I mean, at the least, to at least try to run perpendicular to their fire, not, you know, parallel. Because when you run in parallel to their fire, they're just going to end up shooting you. You're creating a clear line for them. It's easy. At the least, run perpendicular to the fire. Another thing is to avoid mutants unless you have a melee weapon. As you saw earlier, I killed one of them and took their gear. Sometimes they do have gear, but melee weapons that you'll want to have if you're attacking mutants are, I recommend the hatchet, pickaxe. The knife works, but it takes more slices. The axe is slow and takes too many hits, so I'd say a mid weapon like the hatchet would do good. A good balance between speed and damage. But generally, you're just going to want to avoid them. Just try to run a decent distance away from them or sneak around. They just got an update to their perception, so they're a little bit hyper right now, so it's good to just run kind of far away from them if you can. Also, if you keep running, they won't follow you forever. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing is, you know, everyone spawns with this flashlight. This flashlight is dangerous. Believe it or not, it can be the difference between life and death. I'd say, personally, I never use the flashlight. If it's pitch black, you know, and it's a low pop server, maybe I'll use it to loot. Otherwise, never use it. It just gives away your position. It makes it really obvious. Flashlight sticks out like a sore thumb during nighttime. And I see a lot of people using it during the day as well, which is a horrible idea, because you really don't need it. But yeah, it's obvious during day and night, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Also, I'd say never use a flashlight outside at night, because A, it's not necessary, B, it's even more obvious than using it inside. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing is primary secondary melee management. This is pretty minor but also important. If you have two primary weapons and one of them happens to be a melee weapon and you see another gun you want to pick up, I would say just find a secondary melee weapon, because as you'll see, there's secondary melee weapons, and if you were to get an axe or a baseball bat, something like that, that's a primary. So just keep that in mind. If you have another melee weapon that's a secondary and you want to pick up another primary gun, or vice versa, it's a good idea to just, ditch that primary melee weapon. Primary melee weapons aren't too good in this game. The axe is good if you know how to use it. It's a little bit difficult to time, but other than that, it deals a lot of damage. Another thing that's pretty important, this is kind of more of like an advanced tip. Not really, but so what you want to do, if you have a smoke grenade, it's good to keep, I'd say, one smoke grenade on you if you have extra inventory space. But say someone just dies. Say you killed them, say you want to loot them, whatever. If there's a body that you want to loot and you know there's someone shooting nearby, just throw a smoke grenade at it. What this will do is it will create smoke, and it takes a little while. I'd say give it like 10-15 seconds before you run in there. But once you're ready to go, and once it's thoroughly smoked out, you just run in, loot the body, grab the gear you want, run out, zigzag, whatever, zigzag and jump to cover. Then you got all that gear, and there's no way they could have seen you and shot you. I mean, it's a very slim chance that they could have shot straight into the smoke and killed you anyway. But I mean, if you smoke out an area, it makes it very difficult, especially at a distance, for someone to shoot you while you're looting the body. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing is if you're with a team, what you're going to want to do is you want to go to cloth, headbands, in here. There's a wide range of colors you can make to identify your friends as opposed to your enemies. So if you had 4 rags, you could all make aqua headbands, or you could make blue headbands. The most I usually see is the red headbands. I see a lot of people wearing these. But what that does is as soon as you see another player, you know it's friendly because they're wearing that red headband, and you don't have to worry about whether or not there's an enemy nearby. You'll just know immediately when you look at them. If you don't have the luxury of making headbands, maybe you're just starting out, what you'll want to do is just jump check or crouch check. I like jump checking better. But basically what this will do is, say someone's next to me, say they see me, they think I'm an enemy, they'll just tell me to jump. I jump, they say jump check, I jump, they know it's me, and they don't shoot me. So that's a good tip. Always keep that in mind. When you're with teams, you don't want to end up killing each other. I've seen it happen too many times, and it kind of takes the fun out of the game if that happens. So keep that in mind. Another thing is crafting. There are some weapons you can actually make with crafting that actually work pretty well. If you don't happen to find a gun and you need a weapon just makeshift, you can get oil, rubbing alcohol, rags, and an empty bottle, and you can go to weapons, throwable, and you can make a Molotov. And it'll take those items and it will turn it into the item you're trying to craft. And another thing Molotovs and pipe bombs, if you can manage them, are good for is when you have one of those two things, say someone's inside of a building holding out, what you can do is instead of running in there trying to hit them guns blazing, because I mean they already have the advantage, they're aiming at the door, whatever. Say there's 2 people or even 3 people inside of a building, you can just aim the Molotov in there, throw it, and you'll light them all on fire. You'll deal a considerable amount of damage, and they'll probably end up running out of there just due to the splash damage, and that gives you a perfect opportunity to shoot them all. That's pretty much all the tips I can think of, all the basic tips anyway, just staying alive, general stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's been requested a lot. I wanted to just make a quick tips video for beginners. So if you guys liked it, let me know. And as always, thanks for watching and thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next one.